Hi, this is the first of a few videos on Ovid's prescription for the set text 2023 to 2024. In the video, I'm going to show you the Latin, translate the English, and then we'll go through the effects. One day the nymph Echo saw him driving frightened deer into his nets. She of the echoing voice who cannot be silent when others have spoken, nor learn how to speak first herself, resounding echo. Echo still had a body then, and was not merely a voice. But though she was garrulous, she had no other trick of speech than she has now. She can repeat the last words out of many. So trepidos cervos is the deer, vocales nymphae is the vocal nymph, loquente is speaking, resonabilis echo is resounding echo, corpus ad hoc ero, echo non vox erat, that's she was a body at this point and not just a voice. So there's plenty of vocabulary here that you know. Juno made her like that, because often when she might have caught the nymphs lying on the mountain with Jupiter, she knowingly held the goddess in long conversations while the nymphs fled. When Saturnia realized this, she said, "This tongue, by which I have been deluded, I shall give you less power over that and the briefest ability to speak." Fekarat had made her like that. Cum Jove saipe, when Jove often, all GCSE language vocab you know. Saturnia sensit, Saturnia sensuis. Linguae, here is the tongue. Parva tibi dapitur, I will give you little. Okay, so if we look at some of the effects, at the beginning you can see the emphatic position of aspicit. She saw him. We've got the polyptoton as well of loquenti and loqui. Polyptoton is repetition, but particularly of a similar word stem. We're going to see this a lot in Ovid because of the echoing effect and because of the mirrored effect that we're going to see with Narcissus. We also see the balance of corpus and vox, so body and sound. There's a little bit of enclosing order in the infinitive redere and posset, which are quite far apart. If you look at deprendere posset, when it's got a subject change to Juno, they're actually closer together. So Ovid sometimes spaces and repeats words, but puts them closer together to increase the pace. Redere posset, she was able to reply. Deprendere posset, she might have been able to find. And it suggests that Juno's punishment is an answer to Echo's crime. We've also got all the way through a semantic field of voice and speech, which I've highlighted in orange for you. So you can see that every different type of voice and speech is in that passage to emphasize the nature of Echo's punishment. And what she threatened, she did. This woman only repeats the last of speech and returns the words she hears. Now when Narcissus was wandering through the remote fields, she saw him and burned, following him secretly. And the more she followed, the closer she burned with fire. No differently than inflammable sulphur pasted round the tops of torches catches fire when a flame is brought near it. So we've got flamma, fertum in secret, flammas, flames, things that we're getting used to seeing in love poetry. Oh, how often she wants to get close to him with seductive words and call him with soft entreaties. Her nature denies it and will not let her begin, but she is ready for what it will allow her to do, to wait for sounds to which she can return words. By chance, the boy, separated from his faithful band of followers, had called out, "Is anyone here?" And here Echo replied. O quotiens at the top, oh how often, is quite a familiar formula from love poetry. Moles is soft. We've got nexinit, quodsinit, what she's unable to do. Sonos, sounds, expectare, to expect. Lots of vocabulary you know there. And if we start to have a look at some of the effects, we can see the same semantic field coming up that we've seen already with loquendi, dictis, preces, so all different kinds of speech forms. We've also got variato. So the idea that we've got loquendi, speech, but we've also got preces, entreaty, suggests that she's got a variety of different ways of speaking that she's banned from, so it emphasises the limits of her powers. The emphatic positioning of vidit, she sees him and she burns, in calvit, these two verbs put side by side with caesura, suggest the immediacy of love at first sight. We've got the repetition across two lines of sequitur, she follows. This is deponent, so it's not passive. It looks passive, but it's active. And it also mirrors the action of following, like sequitur literally follows sequitur. So Ovid's being quite playful with his use of repetition. The fire imagery again, vivacia sulphura flammas, fire for love is a really common theme. We've also got focalization. So when we see O quotiens, it's sort of an exclamation from her point of view. We have nexinit, quodsinit, so we've got an inversion there from negative to positive. And then we've got repetition and irony of ades and her saying ades. So whenever Echo repeats Narcissus in Ovid's poem, it changes the meaning. So equus ades, who is here? Ades, she responds, I am here. And so, or she is here. And so the word order in Latin allows for some humour and some of the effects with the repetition to be much clearer than they would be in English, because in English we rely a lot on word order. So Ovid's able to play quite effectively with this word order here. He is astonished and glances everywhere and shouts in a loud voice, come to me. She calls as he calls. He looks back and no one appearing behind asks, why do you run from me? And receives the same words as he speaks. He stands still and, deceived by the likeness to an answering voice, says, here, let us meet together. And never answering to another sound more gladly, Echo replies, together. And to assist her words comes out of the woods to put her arms around his neck in longing. So if we look at the effects again, we've got repetition and the irony increases here, voce, voca, vocantem. So we've not got the variety of different words for speech. Repetition is highlighting the repetition between the dialogue of Echo and Narcissus. Respeci at versus, we've got a bit of alliteration to build the pace. We have a pleonasm, responds, responsora, and responding, retrolete. So they're two words that mean the same thing. The enclosing order as well at the very bottom of sperato, hoping, collo around his neck, and brachia. So that mimics the kind of hugging action that Echo is performing at the moment. We've also got assonance at the bottom, ibiutinkiret, which speeds it up a little bit again as well, making for this intense encounter between them both. He runs from her and running cries away with these encircling hands, may I die before what's mine is yours. She answers, only what's mine is yours. In scorn she wanders into the woods and hides her face in shame among the leaves. And from that time on lives in lonely caves. But still her love endures, increased by the sadness of rejection. Her sleepless thoughts waste her sad form. Her skin shrinks and the strength of her body vanishes into the air. Only her bones and her voice are left. Her voice remains. Her bones, they say, were changed to shapes of stone. She hides in the woods, no longer seen on the mountain, but heard by everyone. It is sound that lives in her. So you can see vigiles is sleepless, skin is cutem, as in cuticles. Her body strength, succus corporis, is also there. So vocabulary that you know is in the passage. Vox manet, her voice remains. Videtor, she is seen or seems. Omnibus auditor, she is heard by all. Sonus est, it is the sound. So lots of it is on the GCSE language paper, to be honest. If we have a look at some of the effects, we can see that Ovid continues to play with polyptoton, so repeating the root of a word. Don't just say repetition on the exam. Try and think of a specific type of repetition to demonstrate the effect a little bit better. He builds the pace in the rejection between Narcissus and Echo using assonance. We also see yussive subjunctives, so let me or may I die, to show that Narcissus is intense in his rejection. The echoing as well is particularly sad. Tibi copia nostri, everything that he said negatively, Echo says positively. Note that pudibundaque is a gerundive here, agreeing with Spreta, but it's from pudor, which is a Roman word for shame, but particularly like sexual shame or embarrassment that we can't really capture. We've also got this idea of contrast at the bottom with amor and dolore. We see this contrast in Catullus as well, odi et amo, I hate and I love. And it's the idea of love being a very like destructive or negative force. It's quite a common trope. If you look as well, Ovid plays with the tenses. Extenuant aducique, this is when Echo's wasting away. And this is in the historic present to make it more vivid and build sympathy for her. And then we have this contrast between corporis and vox, body and voice, which shows her transformation, before we shift with Ferun and Traxise back into the historic tenses. I've put down Aitia because an Aitia is an origin story for something that happens in nature, and that's why Ovid shifts from the present to the past, because he's saying things in the present to build sympathy and using the past tenses to give an origin to the echo as the phenomenon. And then we shift back into historic present. Videtur, lata, and auditor. She is heard, she is seen, she lays in the forest. So we have the play of tenses as well to establish the origin of echo. I hope this video was helpful. Feel free to work through it and pause it to practice 8 and 10 markers, and best of luck with your exams. More videos to come.